And here we go. And like we said, we're going to talk about go-to-market strategy. And the first thing you should know is what everyone needs to know is that before you become a big business, you are a small business. And while it's very tempting as a startup to talk about your vision for your large business, what investors really need to know is how will you become a small business? Because they know one thing. The first step is not only the most important step, in the beginning, it's the only step that really matters. Because if you don't do your first step, you don't get to the market and get your first few customers, you won't get the second wave of customers, and you will not grow. The problem is that entrepreneurs and investors look at things differently. Most entrepreneurs have a mindset that says, I will build a product, and then I will get my customers. No problem. This is where we talk about product market fit, right? If I build it, my customers will want it and will use it. And therefore, I will go big. I will do something very big. I'll get everyone, and I'll be an enormous company within a year or two. The investor thinks differently. The investor has seen more companies than the entrepreneur probably. And he knows that customer acquisition, especially the first few customers, is something that is very, very, very hard. And in order to circumvent that, the investor doesn't want you to go big. He wants you to find a niche and conquer that niche. Be the biggest fish in the smallest pond possible. That's where go-to-market comes into play. A go-to-market strategy, and I will read here because this is important, is your plan to target the right pain point with the right type of sales and the right marketing process. It's how you'll grow your business fast, but not too fast, the optimum pace. So what does that mean in terms of actual, let's call it deliverables, parts? So a go-to-market strategy is an action plan, is how are you going to get your target customers, your first few customers. The first few might be the first 100, the first 1,000, or the first 1,000,000. It really depends on the type of business or startup you're launching. And how will you do that in the most focused way possible? In a way that does not spend a lot of money, does not spend a lot of your time, and reaches those customers fast and gets them on board. Now, gets them on board, again, goes with the product market fit, because you have to make sure that they actually want your product. So once you make sure they want your product, how do you get them to actually know that you're there and sell to them? And in a world where everything is a competition, the go-to-market strategy is your secret method of beating the competition. That means it's the way you will do something better than Microsoft, better than Google, better than any other company that is trying to do what you do, and get to those customers faster, cheaper, and with a better value proposition. It's the only way to make a big impact with very, very little resources. And the part of the very little resources is extremely, extremely important, because we're talking about startups. And the biggest resource that you need is money. And therefore, try and spend as little of it as you can. And getting to customers, do it as cheaply as possible in order to prove that you can reach your customers, they want your product, and you can move on. And you have a beginning of a business before you go raise more money to scale that up to a bigger business opportunity. Now, when you look at a go-to-market strategy, the first thing to understand is what it should not be. And I'll give you the biggest tip. When an investor asks you, or if you're an investor, when you ask a company, how are you going to market? If the answer is, I will do a marketing campaign, I will use PPC, I will advertise on social media, or anything that any person with a bit of common sense in marketing will answer, then you have the wrong answer. Because if you can think about something that is so generic that any ad agency can do, then you have no added value over any other startup. You're just spending money, and that money will convert hopefully to users, but it will cost a lot of money to get, a lot of dollars to get each user. So it cannot be generic. It cannot be just do marketing. It can be complicated either. It can't be, I will bring A, he will sell to B, that will be D, and therefore I will sell. No, it has to be simple. It has to be something you can execute with a small team and be very, very clear. And it cannot be something that is expensive. It's very easy to throw away money, but no one wants to throw away money, especially if it's not your money. So it has to be very, very cost efficient. Users should not be expensive. And it should be fast because you don't have time. You don't have the runway. What it should be is tailored to your target market. Once you identify who your target market is, and we'll talk about it in a second, you need to make sure that your marketing plan, your go-to-market, is tailored to their needs. If you're going for students, see how you need to work with students. If you're going for, let's say, the Russian sector in Great Britain, what is their needs and how do you target them? It should be very simple to execute. Remember, this is not your overall marketing plan. This is a plan for one specific niche for the beginning. So make it sure that it's simple to execute. And if you fail, you'll have another one that is simple to execute again. But simplicity is key. Again, cheap, fast, and the most important is you need to be able to measure it. Measure everything you can, because these are your KPIs, your key performance indicators that will show that you're doing something good or you're doing something bad. If you're doing something bad, fix it, do it again, measure again, and see there's an improvement. If you're doing something good, hey, now you have a slide for your deck for your next round to show the investor how amazing you are at doing your go-to-market strategy. So the go-to-market strategy has 4 components. And I'll say what Adi said all the time here: questions in the chat box or in the Q&A section, and we'll answer everything. Go-to-market strategy has 4 components, and I'll go over each one in a bit of detail. Regretfully, we only have a short time here because each one of these can be an hour-long webinar by itself. It has the target customer, the value proposition, distribution channels, and the marketing plan. Now, once we know these 4 components, what are they and how do we build our go-to-market strategy based on that? So we said we need a target market, we need to identify it, we need to craft the value proposition for that target market, understand how we acquire customers, and how we develop a kick-ass marketing plan. So let's go into each one of these in detail and understand. Our target market. Our target market are the people we want as our customers. And for the go-to-market, these have to be what we call the low-hanging fruit. The people who are dying to use our solution, who have the biggest need. And for that, we need to understand who they are. We need to look at our potential market, segment it. It could be segmentation by age, by geography, by habits, by products to use, by anything that allows you to identify a specific group within your market that is dying to use your solution. And if they're dying to use the solution, how can you incentivize them to use your solution and not the customer, or not the competitor's solution? Now, if you want to talk about competition, you always have to understand, what are they doing? Who are they selling to? Do you want to sell to the niche that your competitor is selling to, or do you want to identify another niche and try there first? And then after you make sure you conquer that niche, you go to the niche where your competitor is selling. You need to understand all that to identify it. And then you can decide what segment is the right segment for you. And to decide on that segment, it has to fit three basic parameters. It has to be the smallest segment you can approach and still ensure that it's testable and measurable. So one person is too small, but it might be 100 companies, it might be 1,000 people, but it should be a niche market that you can identify and go to with a value proposition. It has to be well defined. Well defined means people with red hair in New York City. That's a definition. You can look at each customer and each person, say he or she fits within my definition or does not fit within my definition. The reason that you need to be well defined is that once you define a customer properly and very, very well, you probably have the way to approach them in a very, very unique manner. It's very easy to identify them, locate them, and target them. For example, if we talk about the people with red hair in New York City, then we know we need to go to where the people in New York City hang out and identify the red-haired people. And it might be Facebook groups, it might be actual bars, pubs, I don't know, it might be hairdressers. But once we know how to define our segment, we will know how to find them. And they need to be very, very approachable. They need to be people or companies that I will feel comfortable talking to, because I do not want to go into, we said it has to be fast. I don't want to go into a position where I need to chase after my segment and convince them to work with me. So a great example of a problematic go-to-market segment is the government. The government is usually a very hard sell, and it's a very long selling process. It's better for small companies not to start working with the government unless there's a very specific plan by the government to open the gate for them. And now I've spoken a lot in general terms, and I'll give an example from a real life customer that I've worked with before. It's a company that created a nano coating that makes sure that a biofilm does not happen on surfaces. An example of a biofilm is, for example, in ships that go into the ocean, they have accumulation of kelp and other shells on the bottom. And every once in a while, they have to remove it and repaint everything. And it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. And they're dying for a nano coating or some sort of coating that will make sure that this doesn't happen. However, it's a very, very problematic industry to approach. So while this company wanted the shipping industry, the industry where the ships are, it was too difficult for them to approach them. So we found them another market, which is easier and has a bigger pain point, and that's the dairy industry. The dairy industry is where you milk cows, boil milk, and sell it onwards. In the process of boiling the milk, there's a biofilm that is created on the heating elements, and every day they have to clean it out. And it costs many, many billions of dollars just to clean out that film every day. So we decided to go with dairy producing companies. It's a big market, but there aren't a lot of companies in it. In the US, only 700 enterprises actually deal with the dairy industry. And it's enough to get just a few of them to show that there's value here and that it's interesting, and to grow into the others. So that's a very well-defined market that has enough businesses, but not too many, and has a very, very big pain point and is willing to work with you in order for you to solve their pain point. And that's a go-to market target segment. Now, once we have our target segment, we need to craft a value proposition. Why are you more valuable than competition? Why will they need you? What can you offer them that is new, that is better, that is good? Is better pricing, better terms, a service that is good, a product experience that they will find amazing? What is your value proposition? Once you know that, you can target them specifically using the value proposition. And here's another example for a credit card company. And They targeted young people who have a problem that they can get a credit card, but they're very limited in the amount of money they can spend. They need to give personal guarantees, or the parents need to give personal guarantees. And it's a process getting the credit card. So they decided to start with young people in the UK in this example, and remove the limitations they have everywhere else. And suddenly every young person in the UK wanted their credit card because it was easier to get. They didn't need any personal guarantee, and they gave higher limits. That is a value proposition that will get you your company, your customers very, very fast. Okay, so we have our target clients, customers, we have our value proposition. Now we need to understand, how does the customer actually buy products like ours? What is their customer journey? Who initiates the sale? It's different if it's, let's say, a young person. Maybe it's a parent who initiates the sale. Maybe they initiate the sale. If it's in a company, is it the CEO, the CTO, the CIO? Who starts identifying the solution they need? How will they come across your product? Are you sending them emails? Are you targeting them on Facebook? Are you using a channel to get to them? How are you reaching them? And who, aside from making a decision, who influences the sale? Are there personas, influencers online who can say that? Is it consultants? For example, in enterprises, you have companies like Accenture and Deloitte who consult for those companies on how to buy software or how to implement ERPs and things like that. So who are these influencers? So we have who initiates the sale, but who really makes the decision in the end? Is it the person who initiated the sale, or is it the CEO? Or maybe it's the CFO who approved the budget. Is he the one who approves? We need to identify the whole process, understand how we get past the gate, initiate the sale, and have the value proposition for the decision maker. And once we know this whole process, then we can target our customer acquisition. Another example from a company that we've worked for in the past, and I'm running out of time, so I'll start going a bit faster. A company that developed an imaging device for dentists. And they understood that dentists usually only listen to other dentists. So they went and found out the star dentist in each territory and gave them free devices and enlisted them as product ambassadors. And those ambassadors gave their recommendation and convinced other dentists to buy that product. That was how you got to the people. You can use distribution channels. If someone is already selling something to your target customer, maybe he can sell your product as well. So a company that connects to beer taps can go through the point of sale developer and connect them at the same time. There are networking effects. I will not go into that too much, but one person can sell to 5 other people, sell to 5 other people, and suddenly by getting one customer, you get 500. And now once we know all that, we need to find how to communicate all that in a very, very well-defined marketing plan. How do we communicate the value proposition to the target customer with the whole process that we were talking about. A good thing to do is always benchmark the competition. What are they doing? What are they doing right? What are they doing wrong? What can you do better? And then see if you can go from one segment to the next. Can you repeat the same process, or does this need to change? The best go-to-market plan is a market plan that you can do again and again with new market segments and grow from step to step. Can you blitz scale is a different question, and I recommend looking for blitz scaling on YouTube and see lectures from Reid Hoffman, the founder of LinkedIn, about that subject. Very, very interesting. So that's in general the go-to-market strategy. Investors have specific questions that they should and need to ask. And they need to ask, are second. They need to make sure that you know your shit. Excuse my language. Then you knew your stuff. They need to know which segment do you think is dying for your solution and make sure that it's the right one. They want to know, have you spoken to them? What did they say? What was the reaction? You need to engage the market. You need to talk to the people you're going to sell. And then they should know, how are you planning for going from one segment to the other? Is there a natural way to go from one to the other? How are you acquiring your customers? How will you take $10 in marketing and make it look like it's $100 or $1,000? How do you do that and keep your customers happy? And after all that, is there a business case in the go-to-market strategy? Are you doing this just to prove that you can sell, or I can actually make money in your go-to-market strategy? That's a very good question that needs to be shown, because sometimes you can say, I don't plan to make money on my first million customers, but maybe you can. Do you have proof that you can? Can you repeat the money they're paying you? Who knows? And all these things, in the end, need to come from research. The same research you do for your product market fit, you need to do for your go-to-market strategy. You need to understand how your customers use products, what's the usage case, how the market is defined, what are the benchmarks of what the customers are doing, what are the kind of benchmarks for the competition. Show it, prove it. Don't just estimate and assume things. Go get the numbers and bring them to the investors to show them that your plan has validity. That's it.
Thank you very much, Yossi, for your presentation. I think that after reviewing my presentation and Yossi, that you can see that there's a lot of commonalities in the methodologies and the practices that you need to apply when searching for your product market fit or your go-to-market plan. You need to be open to the concept that you might be wrong. You need to not assume, but make assumptions and look for validations. You need to experiment and constantly look for where you have advantage, where you have a solid value proposition, where you have something unique. Don't go for the obvious. So these are processes that you need to constantly repeat from the stage of ideation through the stages of validating and building the product, and once everything is in place, scaling it and executing the go-to-market plan. As investors, you need to search for the team that has that state of mind. When you're looking at a startup from an investor's point of view, there's the team, there's the product, there's the market. If the market is bad, you can't do anything. But if the market is good and the team is bad or the product is bad, you can't make profit. So you start with a good market, because that's one thing that you can't change. And then you have the team, which are the founders. You're most likely unable to change them. So you need to work on your product, but you need to make sure that your team is flexible, they're creative, they're falling in love. This is a very nice quote that I love. They fell in love with the problem, not the solution. It's not that they built something that they love and they're going to make money out of it. No, there's a problem that they're desperate to solve, and they won't give up until they solve it. And if you're not seeing this in the founders, if they are not showing this in the pitch, then they might not be able to get the product market fit or later scale it with a solid go-to-market plan. So thank you, Yossi. If anyone in the audience have questions, then feel free to ask them now. You have the Q&A box, but I think that you can also kind of raise your hand and I can give you the speaking right. Not sure how I do it in Zoom, but if someone raises their hand, then I'm sure we can see it. Other than that, if you have questions, feel free to send them. As I said, the session is recorded, so we'll be sending you a link to view the recording, and we'll also send you a link. I mentioned the PMF survey tool. I'll send a link to that as well. And there's also another survey that I've prepared, something that you can work with yourself only. You don't need customers, and it can help you see if you're on the right path to product market fit. I'll send you that link as well. I don't know if no questions are a good sign, Yossi.
I don't know either, but I will say like this: anyone who wants to ask a question, feel free to reach out, email, LinkedIn chat, any way you want. We'll be very happy to answer your questions and see how we can help out.
Yeah. So just to wrap it up, first, thank you for your time. I hope that you found it beneficial for you. And like Yossi said, if you have any questions, you can find us on LinkedIn and reach out. You have my email. I'll send Yossi's email and link to his profile in the follow-up email as well. Any last option for questions? This is the 90th minute to ask questions. Okay, I want to thank Yossi for taking this opportunity and co-hosting this webinar with me.
Thank you, Adi, for having this webinar and hosting me on it.
My pleasure. As I mentioned, there is a recording for the webinar as long as Zoom are keeping their promises. So it's being recorded now, and when it's done, I'll send a link to everyone who participated or even missed out. So again, thank you very much, and all the best. Stay safe.
Stay safe. Yep.
Keep in touch. Thank you very much.
Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.
Thank you for coming.